This, of course, is entirely safe if you are trained to do it. So we'll just listen here. The chewing of bones. No. No. I can hear Scott starting his car. No, I can't see anything in here, and I hear nothing either. Those vultures are often, I mean, if those lions may have finished their kill and then moved off again, and the vultures will just sit until, like I say, until the thermals start to rise, and then they'll fly off. Alternatively, they do, of course, have brilliant eyes, which means they will sit in the most convenient spot for them. They don't have to be right next to the carcass, especially if there are lions actually feeding on it. But there's nothing through here. And even if there was, it would be impossible to get the vehicle in there. It's quite nice to have areas of the reserve that are inaccessible to the cars. Just keeps them a little bit wilder than they might be otherwise. It is such a pretty morning. Is it not inspirational, Jean-Andre?
Yes.
Yes, you're so enthusiastic about that. Okay. We'll just gently reverse out of here. Okay, let's go across to Scott, get an update from him, and we'll continue our little search through this block.
Well, I thought I had got lucky during my little investigation into this area on foot. I saw a little bit of movement, which caught my attention probably about 40 meters ahead of me in some quite thick bush, and I crept down, looked forward, and saw this tail wagging. And behind the tail, I saw this big, dark shape, a buffalo, and I thought the lion had seen me and was flicking its tail in agitation as I approached its kill. But I was wrong. It was two Cape buffaloes lying next to one another, one of which was wagging its tail. So living buffalo was not what I was hoping to find. For a number of reasons, they can be incredibly dangerous when you do encounter them on foot. And secondly, it means that the lions had not caught one, which is what I was hoping for. That's not to say that somewhere else in this very thick area there is not the lion with the kill, and the buffalo was simply taking a snooze nearby. They may have been uncertain of the lion's position, you know, depending on a number of things. I mean, if the wind was blowing the wrong way, the lion would obviously go undetected to the buffalo, depending on where the buffalo approached them. So it's not hugely impossible that buffalo could be sleeping 100 meters away from lions with a kill. Hello, Ava. Good to have you with us. Had we have found a kill, you'd like to know, would the lions be feeding on the intestines, or will they leave that for the hyena? It depends on the animal, but generally most predators will feed on portions of the intestines. What they'll do is they'll milk or bleed out the vegetable matter, the rumen in the stomach, kind of sausage you could say, and they'll suck it through their teeth, just feeding on therefore the outer meaty layer of the sausage, not the contents, the vegetable contents of the sausage. Various organs will also be fed on, often first because they're soft and easy to plow through. So yes, my final answer is yes, lions will eat intestines, but they will be fussy as to how they go about feeding on it. Not much goes to waste out here. Ah, Dr. Debbie, you would like to know, how do vultures distinguish between what may be a dead animal or an animal that is merely having a sleep? I guess, you know, practice, they must make mistakes early on in their vulture life, but as time goes by, they probably just, you know, through trial and error have worked out what is dead kind of more sideways, arms sticking out, rigor mortis, as opposed to sleeping. So yes, I think it's just trial and error. They've got incredibly good eyes. I'm told that they can see a piece of meat with a diameter of 5 centimeters, about that big, from a kilometer up in the sky. I'm not sure who worked that out, but the bottom line is they do have very, very good eyes. Little mud wallow here, a sign of the recent rains. Hello Andrea, you would like to know if there are any American guides working in the Sabi Sands at the moment? Not that I'm aware of, but we only are intermingling with a very small portion of guides. The southern Sabi Sands has got bigger lodges with bigger guiding teams as a general rule than where we are in the north. There's very small camps here with only 2 or 3 or 4 guides in each one, whereas the camps to the south of the Sabi Sands can have up to 12 or 16 guides at any given camp. And at one of them there was an American guide who worked at the same camp as James, Londolozi. What was her name? She was good fun. I don't think she is there anymore though. What was her name? Anyway, so there was, I've experienced one American guide in the Sabi Sands since I've been here, but also a French guide, a German guide. The German guide, that was an awesome story. He used to work for Ferrari, and he had quite a good position working at Ferrari head office in Germany. And one of his friends had a spare ticket to come on safari, and he said, Sasha, come and join me, I've got this free ticket. And Sasha wasn't really interested. And his friend had to beg and plead and like convince him to come on this free safari. Eventually Sasha was like, okay, I'll come. I'll leave Ferrari head office in Germany and come on safari if I have to. And good old Sasha ended up falling in love with it, so much so that he went back to Germany, resigned from Ferrari, and came back, trained and worked as a guide for quite a long time here. Then he moved up to Tanzania, managed the camps over there, but basically fell in love completely with everything that is safari. And he didn't even want to come out here on a free holiday to start with. So how's that for a change of events? Who else? What other nationalities have I come across? Yeah, just French, German, American that I can think of. Quite a few British people come into it. It's quite popular amongst the Brits. So there was also a guy from England working at the one camp where I worked. And this is of course just me and my experiences. I'm sure are guides of all different nationalities. There's huge benefits to coming, especially if you come from a country with a foreign language. You'll be very attractive to employ as a guide, because obviously when foreign speaking people come, the lodge has got that base covered. So I think Spanish is one of the most widely spoken languages. That would be a good one. If you can speak Spanish, you'll be attractive to camps. My friend, the French guide, who I speak of, Mark Eschenlaw, could actually be watching. Mark, hello, please let us know if you are watching. He's one of those sneaky viewers who only tells you afterwards that they were on safari with you. Stowaways, hiding on the vehicle. As are some of you. Hiding in the shadows like Djuma, the nervous male leopard that hopefully we are going to find around the next corner. But yeah, he could speak French and Spanish, so very good. Shamrock, I'm glad you enjoyed the way I can simulate a dead animal. Like that. You also mentioned that Nicola Austin could possibly match the audio to go along with that. And yes, Nicola Austin is sitting behind me. I'll show you her foot. There, she's barefoot. Look at that. Barefoot early in the morning. I promise you that wasn't Dave's foot. Dave's on the other side of the vehicle. You can obviously also hear Ladylike giggle again, not Dave. Okay, before we lose complete focus on our task at hand here, I've thoughts of coming back to the waterhole here at Buffelshoek, because if the lion are in fact in this general area, there's a chance that they would have come back now for a drink, now that it's warming up a little bit, now that the threat of hyenas is probably subsiding.
Oh, you would prefer to eat where you? Negative, through the road, down there. I'll let you know soon. Okay.
No joy. The lion are sadly not here. Hello, Jangalo. You would like to know how are we protected from the wild beasts that roam Djuma and Arathusa. I'm just going to go through this dip quickly, where we may lose signal, although it has been good this morning. Okay, very good. Jangalo, you'd like to know what protects us from the wild beasts of this area? To be honest, it's probably more than anything else the fact that for many hundreds and thousands of years, humans have been the apex predator on the planet. So predators general, and most of these animals, their general response to us is to run away. Obviously that's not the case here, because people have been coming to the Sabi Sands, the reserve that we are in, since the 1960s, and even prior to that, but mainly since the 1960s people started coming here in greater quantities, armed with cameras, not with rifles, and because many people over many years have been coming here, taking pictures of animals, slowly making them understand that we just want to watch them and not want to hurt them or harm them or get involved in their lives in any way. We merely want to spectate. And because of that, the animals have slowly become relaxed with us and not scared of us. And they don't see us as food because of the way that our brain power has allowed us to kind of mentally win this relationship battle with them, and over time they've realized that, you know, it's not worth taking us on for food, because we were initially apex above them. We could initially kill everything, and still, as a lot of you know, can kill things and get in their way, but because we're not doing that, the animals have become relaxed with us. That's not to say, oh, there's just a little hornbill flying off here. Let's see if we can't get you a view. Let's pick up a little bit closer. Obviously, that's not to say, Jangalo, that they are not potentially dangerous. And there is a possible risk that we could come unstuck. Oh, the hornbill's not playing along, but let's just take this moment to get a little view of it. Oh no, I've stopped in a terrible spot. Let me roll forward a bit, chap. So that's not to say that we can't come unstuck if we are not careful, but we've all gone through a lot of training, and if you give the animals the respect and space that they need, they typically will not become aggravated with you. So that's the bottom line, is if we, with our experience and with our training, read into the behavioral signs of the animals, all the indicators that should warn us of an animal that may be in a bad mood, that may be sexually heightened like elephant bulls and must, you just give them the respect that they need. No difference, I guess, to responding to humans' body language. A lot of the time we read into body language and then act accordingly, and it's the same with the animals. Even though we can't necessarily communicate with them, just by watching them and understanding them, you give them the respect that they require or they ask for sometimes, with low growls or head shakes or behavioral behavioral science, and then they kind of are happy with us to do what we do, spectate and not interfere. There's a golden orb spider up here, Dave. I don't know, if you just zoom in, you should get it there. There we go, here. We're gonna get some great, oh, what have you just made a kill? Why did you move so quickly? We got perfect sunshine on what is quite a large spider, this golden orb spider. I find it fascinating how they can move on these webs. Obviously, this one's missing how many legs, everybody? 2. It's only got 6 legs, and it's supposed to have 8. So even with its 2 missing legs, it's still doing a good job moving around. That line of debris below it is where all of its kills have been stashed, and various theories as to why they'll have that. Some people say that it's to prevent other animals flying into the web, so it's kind of an indicator that there's something there. Other things you can see in the web a little bit above it, Dave, if you just focus on the smaller spider and pan up a bit, there's 2 different smaller spiders above it. One of which is the male golden orb spider. That's the one in the middle. And there's a tiny one above that male with a little silver bottom. That's a kleptoparasite called a dewdrop spider. And it is glistening in the morning sunlight. I don't know, Dave, if you can try and focus on that tiny one above it. So I don't know where it is in relation to the... There we go, I think that's right there. But you can see it glistening with that shiny abdomen, hence the name, a dewdrop spider. It looks like a little ball of dew, that big bottom of it. And that will steal food from the orb web spider. Let's go back to the lady. The lady is much bigger than the male, and it looks like she's doing some web maintenance. Look at this. This is absolutely fascinating. Look at her taking the webbing out of the end of her abdomen there, and you can even see the golden tinge that gives them their name, the golden orb web spider. And isn't this just the most awesome thing to be watching? The intricate design of a spider web. What's fascinating is that from that silk gland, they will be able to produce different kinds of silk. Some are more sticky than others. Some are used as kind of foundation ropes that don't need to be sticky. Obviously, the portion of webbing that they want to catch their prey with will be more sticky, but they can produce different kinds of silk. I'm glad she knows what the plan is, because this is some serious engineering we're witnessing. Hello, Lisa. Oh, sorry, Dad. I just let go of my foot off the brake then and rolling forward. Lisa, you would like to know if these spiders are poisonous? And I'll have to start off by correcting a very commonly made mistake, and that is that poison is ingested and not injected or envenomated via teeth. So no scorpions, spiders, or snakes are poisonous. You can eat all of them, you can drink all of their venom, and there will not be a problem. If, however, they are to bite you, depending on the species, they may be venomous. This one is not venomous to us. They cannot bite us. I'm told that they do have venom, but their teeth aren't possible, or they don't have the correct mouth parts to actually be able to bite us. So they are of no harm to us, even though they may have some venom. They are not a harmful spider to us as humans. Anna Marie, you say you feel sorry for all male spiders, and that is very kind of you. The reason why Anna Marie feels sorry for male spiders is that they run the risk of being consumed by the females, who are far larger And that's why the male, you can't see, but he is hiding on another side of the web, so she can't get through to him very easily. They'll always stay on the opposite side of the web to the female. Dave, if you just go up to the male quickly, we'll be able to work it out. Here we can see we're looking at the back, the top side of the male, whereas we're looking at the bottom side of the female, indicating that they're on other sides of the web. We need to send you over to James, who's found a bird.
He's just here. We're just looking at a grey-headed bush shrike, everyone. We don't see them often, and it will be a new one, perhaps, for some of your bird lists. He just dropped off this marula tree into the ground. There he goes. There he goes. There he goes. He's in the base of the groovia here. You see him?
No.
He's gone. He couldn't have gone. Oh, how very distressing. It's a beautiful bird, everyone. It's called a grey-headed bushshrike. Just while Jean-André is there, I'm going to find him in my book. Just keep checking there, Jean-André. Maybe he'll pop out. But he makes the most ghostly call, which has given the rise to his Afrikaans name, the spookvoël, which means the ghost bird. I can hear a fluttering, but he goes like this. He goes. It sounds like a ghost, of course. Apparently it sounds like a ghost. S for shrike, correct, Jean-André? Begins with an S. 390.
2 out of 10.
Yes. Well, can only hope for something as high as a 4. Here we go. Is the grey-headed bush shrike, everyone. A beautiful, beautiful bird. And their other close relative that we get here is the orange-breasted bush shrike, sometimes known as the 007 bird, because of its call. I think that's a ridiculous name to give it. It goes. That's the grey-headed bush shrike. And he's big. He's about, well, he's almost a foot long. Almost a foot long. Beautiful colour. Right, let's head back to Scott and his spider. She's not going anywhere. She's being a lot more confiding than that bird was. We're going to continue along towards the water.
So the lady is still busy doing some web maintenance, and we're going to leave her be. As she does that, I just thought we'd wait here and give you one last view of this interesting sighting. Oh, there goes a dewdrop spider in the background. 2 of them. And you'll probably find they may be going to that long line of what will be old carcasses that the spiders fed on, looking for another little morsel or snack. Great. I'm wondering if these Nkuhuma lioness aren't somewhere in this thick bush here somewhere. Anyway, one of the difficulties we face is that if we are off the vehicle for very long, then we don't get to spend time with you. So that is why I'm not going to invest any more time off on foot. But I got a feeling that these lions are lurking somewhere. The other problem is that to safely be able to explore an area this thick where there are lions, possibly lions with a kill, where I know there are already a few living Cape buffaloes, you've got to go slowly. And I found that even the last time I was off on foot, the time pressure that I felt I need to get back to you guys puts you in a dangerous situation. I don't feel like being trampled by a buffalo this morning. So we're going to have to just leave it be. Maybe we'll find the Nkuhuma lioness flying around at Buffelshoek Waterhole this evening, just like we did yesterday. Or maybe they have just moved off and maybe the vultures are just waiting for things to warm up before they fly off. Anyway. Chris, in Arizona, you'd like to know if predators lose their fear of humans, will we become prey? Certainly not. Because the predators in this area certainly do not fear us, but we are not their prey. Obviously, I mean, there's different degrees of how habituated they could become, and depending on how they are habituated, but if it's done in an organic, slow, natural way, there shouldn't be any problems. Okay, our signal's going to start getting shaky as we head down into Inyala Road North, this little low-lying area, so we're going to send you back to James.
I sort of feel that Scott and I are looping each other at the moment. He's headed on to Nyala Road North, which is the road we've just come off now, and I think he was on Hyena Road. Anyway, it might be a good idea just to, as it heats up, to go and check Buffelshoek Dam again. Maybe those lions will pop out of the block. We did do a walk through there, which is quite an extensive walk through the block there, just to check if we couldn't find any evidence of those lions, and I'm afraid we found nothing. So, my plan now is to just have a quick look at the hyena den, see what's going on there. Some red-billed hornbills. And perhaps pick up, I know a lot of you were concerned about the hyena that was attacked by the dogs yesterday. Certainly had a large piece of her bottom attacked by 6 or 7 of them bit her, and then she backed into this bush, and it was amazing to watch how the dogs wanted nothing to do with her jaws. They weren't prepared to take the risk to be bitten by those very powerful jaws. So we'll go and check if she's come back. If she hasn't, I think we'll check the water hole at Gallagher and then possibly up towards Sydney's dam as well as the heat starts to build. There's still a very nice breeze blowing, a nice cool breeze, but every time we stop, certainly it becomes apparent that a stinker is coming our way in terms of the heat at midday today. James Richard, you say whenever you see a golden orb-web spider, you're reminded of the lyric from Paul Simon that said, the spider resumes his golden thread. I'm not familiar with that lyric, James Richard, so if you could tell me which Paul Simon song it came from, that would be great. I enjoy Paul Simon very much. I think he's extremely clever. As a musician, I don't know how clever he is at physics and things like that. As a musician, I think he's brilliant. I'm afraid my mammal luck seems to be back to where it was before yesterday. Anna, you want to know what diseases wild lions fall victim to? Anna, the most obvious one, or the most clear one that people worry about, is something called bovine tuberculosis, which is a tuberculosis that infects just about all of the herbivores we get out here, but buffalo specifically. And when the lions eat the buffalo, they pick up the disease. Now, for many years, I'm actually not sure what the status of the current research is, but for many years they thought, well, bovine tuberculosis was probably going to wipe out the lions of the Kruger Park. That hasn't happened. Lion numbers in the Kruger seem to be relatively healthy, so I don't think that has happened. And although it does seem to cause these kind of almost lesions in the lymph nodes underneath the armpits or in the shoulders of lions, it doesn't seem to have a huge effect. It might maybe, if times are really tough and there was nothing to eat, it would probably take hold in the body maybe and create a problem for the lions, but I don't think it makes a huge difference. Then there is feline AIDS, of course, FIV, feline immunodeficiency virus, which is a possible effector of lions. I don't think it's a huge problem out here at the moment, but certainly domestic cats around South Africa have a major problem with it. And indeed, my mother's beloved kitty succumbed to it eventually last year. Don't worry, that kitty has since been replaced by a new version. All areas where human beings live, cities and villages, would become devoid of humanity. So you'd probably find initially it would be rodents and rats that would take over areas like that. Cockroaches and other, what we would term pests, would devour anything that was around. Then, of course, let's assume that we weren't all lying in a rotting pile somewhere, that we just disappeared. Yeah, I think cockroaches and rats to start with, I think they would find inhabiting our human dwellings the most obvious because they know how to do it already. They would then be replaced, of course, by predators which ate them, lots of little smaller predators. And in turn, eventually, I think what would happen is that the cities and towns would be taken over by bush again. And so the natural wildlife of those areas would start to flourish. That's a very interesting thought experiment. Thank you for that. Just quickly before we arrive at the hyena den, this bush on my right-hand side is called a sour plum, and the sour plum bush had some green sour plums on it earlier in the season, but it doesn't have anything more on it now, and they didn't ripen. So the fruits just kind of disappeared. And that's just because there weren't enough water, I'm afraid. They're delicious little fruits. In Coldplay, you say the dogs would dominate. That's probably very true also in urban environments, yeah. Feral dogs and feral cats would probably dominate. But I think you'd find it was the little things initially. The rats and the cockroaches. Don't it just give you a shiver, John Gray? Shiver down your spine at the thought of all those cockroaches running around. I see no evidence of hyena activity here now. That's not surprising. Now, Stefan, while we pull into the hyena den here, there are two reasons I think this den might be inactive. The one is that the heat of the day has begun, and the second is that I wonder if these chaps haven't moved. They looked like they might be thinking about it last night. So from here we're going to go to the Galago pan and check if they aren't swimming in there, recovering from their fight with the dogs. And Stefan, you want to know if there's ever been an animal that I have been unable to identify. Stefan, by animal, you probably mean mammal, and the answer is not in this area, no, I can identify all the mammals in this area. Well, no, that's not true. I can't identify all of the bats species at all. They're much too difficult to try and identify. In fact, no one can identify them just on sight. And then, Stefan, remember, if we expand that away from just mammal to actual animal, the whole kingdom, then there will be plenty, especially in the invertebrate world, that I would have no idea about. So lots and lots of insects which you can identify down to, you can say, well, this is a mantis, or this is a beetle, or this is a stick insect, but to actually get the specific name of those mantises and beetles is very, very difficult. So yeah, plenty of invertebrate animals that I cannot identify, Stefan. So interesting that there are no hyenas here. Like I say, I suspect they have maybe moved. Oh, and Bill, yes, we did. You want to know if we got the hyena attack from those wild dogs on the 360-degree camera. Yes, we did. And Brian stitched it together yesterday. Now, what that does, it doesn't mean that we're... Oh, dear grief. Sorry about that, everyone. Driving like an absolute moron. Sorry, John, you're looking a bit shocked. Bill, we did, and Brian stitched it together, and it did work, so that's good. Now, we can't actually show it yet. It needs to be processed further, but by stitched together, what Brian does is all the camera guys do is they take the 7 cameras, they put them into the computer, and the computer then sort of makes the 360-degree circle, but you can't actually view it like that. It's still got to go for a bit more post-production before you can have that kind of 360-degree view, which is so amazing. So I think it's going to be incredible. We'll have the hyenas that side, we'll have the dogs running either side, and I mean, they were so close that we couldn't actually see them in front of the car, but that camera would definitely have picked them up. All right, let's go back across to Scott. I'll go and check the water, and we'll keep you posted on what we find.
So, this is one of my favorite things to do. It's a good way to check for tracks. Get the car to drive itself. That way you can peer off into the distance. You can also, when in a riverbed, see up onto the banks on either side. For now, all is clear. Although, a bird's just started alarm calling up ahead of us. What could it be? The only catch is if you do need to stop quickly. Obviously, I'm away from the pedals. But thankfully, the vehicle tends to just stick to the tracks that have already been created from driving through this riverbed. I think it's just an little bird chit-chat there that we're passing by, nothing too serious. Oh. I'm not a good surfer, and I think the reason why is that my balance is terrible, so I'm actually quite scared where I am here because I could topple off at any moment. Oh. No, nothing to see. I was just peering down, I thought I saw some interesting tracks, but it looks like it's just a hyena that's walked through here. Very good. I think I shall return to my driver's seat now. There we go. Whoop, hit the brake there, that's the wrong pedal. Nice to stretch the legs on safari. Told you got a view of my lower back there. You may have noticed some strange colorations. There may be some kind of artwork there. I don't want to be promoting that, as it's most mother's worst nightmare. I do not want to have any little kiddies going and following the same thing as me. Naughty. But there may be some kind of a baobab tree that has been impregnated into my lower back. It's actually a renovation of a terrible initial artwork that was a tribal squiggle design, very small one at my lower back, also known as a tramp stamp, that I got with a matching with an ex-girlfriend when I was 18. Bad move. But at least it wasn't her name. It was merely just the fact that we got the same tattoos. Hers was slightly skew. It was a horizontal tattoo, and they didn't do hers straight, so you could distinguish the two ever so slightly. And when she decided to get married to another man, I thought I should maybe renovate that initial artwork. Chris in Arizona, you'd like to know if I've ever had a guest fall out of the vehicle. Thankfully, no, I haven't. But I do have colleagues that it's happened to. If you hit a bump too quickly while racing towards a sighting or following wild dogs, that back row acts like, it gets major leverage and acts like a catapult, flinging people into the air and sometimes out of the vehicle. So it has happened, but never to me, thankfully. I've seen some tracks up ahead of us here. I just want to jump out and check what they are quickly. Maybe it's Karula, that sneaky leopard. Interesting. It's looking like a hyena though. Yeah, it is a hyena. Not easy to see in this kind of loose beach sand almost, because you don't get a very clearly defined track left in the sand. But I can tell that it is a hyena. Just making sure I'm not overlooking anything. Obviously, wherever I've found another set of tracks coming across here, and wherever hyena have been moving up and down, it may be in an area where there could be a leopard kill. So even though I haven't seen a leopard track, there could be something that's causing these hyena to up and down in this general area, but nothing at first glance. Aha! Hello Naomi in Gauteng, which is a city in South Africa also known as Johannesburg, or a region of South Africa, where Johannesburg, our biggest city, our financial hub is. Naomi would like to know if it takes a little bit of time to acclimatise to the city when we do head back there on our 2-week breaks. And yes, most certainly Naomi, a few things that are for me the most pertinent with regards to acclimatization is driving around with other vehicles, having to deal with traffic and other people on the roads. That's clearly something we don't encounter too often here. Obviously, traffic lights, or what we call robots here in South Africa, are also something that you need to get used to. Even stop streets, indicating, we never indicate when we turn here. So yes, the driving takes a little bit of getting used to, and just the general noise and hustle and bustle of a city can be a little bit overwhelming once you've been in the bush for 6 weeks on, which is the general work rotation that we work, 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off. That's how I've lived my entire working career, just about, working life since I started as a guide after I completed my degree in Cape Town. So yeah, I think that is one thing. Nikki, what's another thing that takes getting used to out here? I mean, back in the city.
Driving was the first.
Driving was the first one for Nicola. Controlling retail therapy is also something that you need to try and get used to. It's the most bizarre thing. Because we can never really buy anything here, we don't use money for 6 weeks at a time while we're here. Well, unless, you know, we may send our bank card or some cash with whoever's going into town to buy some drinks or sweets or things that don't get catered for us here. But everything else is basically catered for us whilst in the bush. So we don't really have to deal with money, and there's no shops where you can spend money. So you find when you get back to city, you can like go to an engine, which is one of our petrol stations, where they've got little shops, just like, I guess, around the world. They'll have a little bit of a shop there where you can buy cool drinks and sweets and pies. And you leave an engine, a petrol station or gas station, with packet loads, like you've been coming out of a proper actual grocery store, because you just like buying things. So I find that's a problem that I have to try and get used to. You just buy for the sake of buying, because you haven't been able to do that for a while, which obviously that's something that takes a bit of getting used to. I tend to do the same thing as well when we head out for a few drinks at the local watering hole. Because you haven't been to a watering hole for so long, you think everyone's your best friend and you like to buy everyone drinks. That's another problem I face when going back to the city. I haven't done this for so long. Here we go, everyone, have a drink. But yeah, I'm not too sure what else, Naomi. If I do think of anything else to let you know about, so I'll be sure to let you know. But for now, you guys are going to be heading back to Mr. Henry. Perfect timing as we exit the riverbed.
So we've nothing at the Gallagher waterhole, I'm afraid. Just a little bit of shimmering water in the late morning light. Andre, a kingfisher. Oh, it's blown away. Can you still see it? It's over there.
Yes.
You can see it?
Yes, not great.
Oh, I can see it. Well done. It's that sort of thing with a spiky head in the right-hand bottom of your screen. That is a brown-hooded kingfisher. Unimpressive view. Let us continue. So our next port of call, as I said, is going to be Sydney's Dam, and we'll see if there doesn't happen to be well, I don't know, maybe a herd of elephants, maybe a pack of wild dogs reclining after a heavy meal. Siberia Zumi, very good question. How do you tell the difference between a mangrove and woodland kingfishers? Siberia Zumi, the most obvious thing to tell them apart is the fact that a woodland kingfisher has got a black underside to the bill. They do look almost identical, but the woodland is black underside the bill, red on top, and the mangrove is purely red. Also, a mangrove kingfisher occurs only in mangroves around about the coast, so you'd never see a mangrove kingfisher here, unless it was seriously off course. Now, we are on that fire break area again. There are some impalas in front of us. And Naomi, you're in Gauteng, and you want to know when we go back to city, do we find it difficult to drive in the city or be in a crowded place? I think if I hadn't grown up in Johannesburg, I would find it very difficult. But I did grow up there, so it's not too difficult. The traffic results in my saying very bad words, I must confess. I have very little patience with people who drive like imbeciles. And of those, there are many in Johannesburg. Impala don't want to be on screen today. And Naomi, I mean, being in crowded places, yes, that does start to affect me. It's quite nice every so often just to go and, you know, be in a crowded place for a little while, like a big bar or something like that, or a crowded restaurant, but then after a few days, it loses its appeal very quickly. There's a strip in Johannesburg called the 4th Avenue Parker Strip, which is full of sort of swanky restaurants to go along. And I find that I get very sick and tired of that within about 2 days, 2 visits or so. Kyle, you want to know how long it took me to learn about all the animals here? I think that was your question. Kyle, I'm still learning about all the animals here. Oh, how long it took me to memorize which animals make which tracks, Kyle. Again, still learning. If you get a very clear track, it's pretty easy to learn. It'll take you a couple of weeks to learn exactly which leaves what track. But the thing is that animals very seldom leave completely obvious tracks. Remember, it depends what they're walking across. They might be walking on stony ground, so they might just leave a little piece of track. They might be walking across a rain-capped piece of earth, like these lions, I think, have been doing, and that's why we can't find their tracks. And so it's a question of looking for other signs and very unobvious signs. Oh, quickly, go across to Scott to see the relative of the grey-headed bushrat.
Okay, we've taken a massive gamble here, everyone. There's a... Oh, you little... Okay, well... There was a bird. It was the cousin of the bird that you saw earlier with James the grey-headed bushrat, but she gone. So we are going to send you back to James, but at least we tried. Goodbye.
There are some piggies, everyone. 1 sow, 2 piglets. And they are grazing along as the heat starts to build to my back. I must say, I think we're in for a real stinker today. Now, 2 days ago, we had a sighting of everyone's going to the loo. We had a sighting of a really emaciated, skinny, unhealthy-looking sow and her piglet, and we wondered if it wasn't the drought that had made her like that. And I said no, I didn't think so, because although warthogs would be the first ones affected by the drought, none of the others seem to be that badly affected just yet. So I don't think that's what the case was, and you can see the sow looks to be in relatively good health. So I think there was some sort of disease that she had. She thinks we can't see her, of course. All right, let's pop along. There's just some zebra up ahead. Now, Kevin, you've been watching the dam cam, and certainly before it had its recent troubles, there seemed to be buffalo and hippo and all sorts there just about all the time during the day, and suddenly there isn't. Kevin, that is simply because the advent of those troubles with the dam camera happened at almost precisely the same time as we had the rain. And what that rain has done has put puddles of water all over the bush, which means that the animals don't have to go to that one piece of water in order to survive. So the buffalo, for example, which were all over that place, are now spread out amongst the bush, lying in the puddles. We found one on his own in Buffelshoek yesterday, not Buffelshoek, in Arathusa yesterday, and then a few more just sort of lurking about, the smaller pans, the more natural pans. And that's why, I think, Kevin, I think you'll find as we dry out again, so the action will return to that pan. Beautiful herd of zebra here. Again, going to start a foal just having a little frolic, a frolicking foal. So unique striping patterns, as you can see, and the one that you're looking at now, I think she's got quite sort of dark black striping all the way underneath her belly, which of course is characteristic of the Birchall zebra in this area. In some areas you'll find that the Birchall zebra stripes don't go all the way underneath the stomach, they stop halfway. And certainly the mountain zebra, that is the case. This one looking at us here, Jean-Marie. They are so very horse-like in so many ways. They snort in the same way, they sound the same, they buck around and they look the same, obviously. And so I've always had a bit of a soft spot for zebra because I have a soft spot for horses. Are you a horseman, John Ray? It would have to be a large horse, of course, that carried you. One of these zebras would object strongly. All right, we're not too far from the water here. Let's go and have a look there. The general state of relaxedness of all these mammals tells me that I don't think that there are going to be any wild dogs at the dam, but maybe a herd of elephants. There are some giraffe. I can see giraffe. I can see more zebra. A great swathe of mammal life awaits us. See that, Andre? Oh. Almost giraffe right in front of us. Don't go away. Stop. Stop. That is a very old cow. So old that her horn has moved. I think it's probably detached itself from the skull. I'm going to sneak in here where we might be hidden from view. One of the zebras is lying down. Not anymore. Is that all right, John?
I'd say.
There you can see her horn is sort of, which one broken? I think it's the one facing forward or back? The one facing forward and to the side is, I think, probably detached from the skull. She's quite an old female. You can see the markings on her skin are indistinct. And obviously she's bashed her head, probably running away from something. Now, there's quite an interesting picture here. I'm going to sneak forward very slightly, Jean-Marie. And again, you don't get the kind of perspective that we do because you are watching on a screen. But Jean, if you can get both of the zebra and the giraffe in shot, that would be great. Simply because you can get an idea of the difference in size. So a giraffe is actually a massive, massive animal. And those zebra, I mean, if we were going to compare them with horses, you would find that they were the size of a sort of, I don't know how familiar you are with horse sizes, but they're probably about 14 two hands, so just about a horse, but like a large pony is the size of the zebras. And the big one can weigh up to 350 kilograms, which is very large. And so that's, I mean, that's a third only of the size of that giraffe. Now, Naomi, you say, why is it that zebras are so fat? Why do they always look so fat? Well, Naomi, they look so fat because they have what we call a hindgut fermentation system. And that means that they ferment the food that they eat in the hindgut. And so if you know where your appendix is, it's at the end of your, or the start of your colon. That thing in a zebra and an elephant, for example, is enormous. And it is carried by fermentation vat. It is full of bacteria, and that's where the digestive process occurs. Unlike in a giraffe, for example, or an impala or a cow, where the digestive process takes place in the foregut, in the front of the stomach. So they don't have that huge kind of gas-filled vat at the back of the stomach, which makes them have that fat appearance. Jean-Marie, this one in the shade here looks a little worse for wear. See what I mean? Got some mud on him. Standing just as a horse might, resting with his leg sort of on the toe. And he's got a number of scars on him, quite a lot of mud. I think he's just old, you know. I guess he's an old stallion. So he's done well to get to the age that he is. Didn't like me calling him old. I think it's a stallion. The giraffe seemed to be heading off towards the water, and I'm just going to sneak forward. Chandra, look at the bird here. Look at that beautiful picture there. Hello, Lisa Roll on Me. Every day we get a wonderful Twitter handle that makes me giggle. Lisa Roll on Me, you want to know, warthog, how big do they get in comparison with the domestic dog? I suppose they would be roughly the size of a bull terrier. If you know what a bull terrier is, it's that kind of short, very stocky dog. So, but, well, no, they're not actually. A big boar is actually much bigger than that. A big boar weighs about 100 kilos, but I think it's very concentrated. They're very densely built. But it's like a really big bull terrier, I suppose, would be the size of a warthog. Isn't that pretty? That is called a European bee-eater. No, it's not. It's called a European roller, not a bee-eater. And that beautiful sky blue. Oh, catching an insect. Back to the same perch. He basically lives on that perch. Let's see if he'll fly back there. Here we go. Every time we come past here, he's over there. I'm sure you can feel the sense of peace that starts to build as the heat comes, and you can see why we had that question earlier today about the crepuscular nature of our drive, so why we're active dawn and dusk. And it's just simply because the animals are, and you can see that they are starting to really calm down. The birds have stopped singing their morning songs, and the animals have stopped grazing. They're heading into the shade to try and escape the heat of the African sun. Except that bird who seems to be reveling in it. Now Scott has got, interestingly, some wild dog tracks heading down Twin Dams Road towards Shibam, which is astonishing given that those two roads are separated by at least 2 kilometers. Anyway, it seems that the wild dogs have come onto Vuyatela, so what I think we should do is move now and quickly go past Sydney's dam, which is just up ahead here, and then we'll head down south the western boundary of Vuyatela, and maybe we'll be lucky. Of course, no one's been exploring the western edges of... Look at this bird. He's right here. Yes, he's a little bit nervous now. Very nice, Rondre. Well done. That was so cool. Really cool. That's amazing. He was only about 2 meters from the edge of the lens. So no one has explored the western fringes of Djuma today because the Djuma guys, Tax and Aubrey, were not driving this morning. Their guests left today, and so maybe those dogs have been frolicking about there the whole day. Bye-bye. Don't panic. Don't panic. There we go. I'm constantly amazed still at the way the buffalo, for example, at that pan. You know how many buffalo there are at the Djuma pan quite often. We drive up there and they still will get up and go as if they've never seen us before, and yet they spend countless hours in the presence of human beings. Carol, you want to know what lodge Taxon and Aubrey work for? They work for Djuma, and Djuma's got 2 lodges, Galago and Vuyatela, and they work at both of those lodges. One is a 10-bed camp, if I'm not mistaken, and the other just a 6 or 8-bed camp. Here we are at the water, where there is Chandra. Nothing. Apparently today is not drinking day. There is a saddle-billed stork. Do you see the saddle-billed stork, Chandra?
Yeah.
It is that white thing over there. You can see the back end of it. And actually there are 2. You can see in the middle of your screen there, you can just see a little flash of yellow, and that is the saddle on the bill of the partner of the obvious saddle-billed stork. Isn't that brilliant? There he is. Okay, I'm going to drive quite quickly now towards quarantine clearing, see if we can't pick up some more tracks of those dogs. Let's go across to Scott. He can give you an update as to where he found the tracks, and we may be lucky before the end of the drive. Tally-ho, Gendry.
So, as James has mentioned, had just a handful of wild dog tracks heading towards this road that we are now, called Shibam Road, which means gun road. Shibam is a gun. Interestingly, in Shangaan, XI is pronounced she. So Shibam is spelled XIBAMU. Kind of don't really pronounce the U at the end. Or at least you shouldn't if you're speaking proper Shangaan. But a lot of people go Shibamu. But it's more a silent U at the end. Oh, it goes an impala, bucking off to the side. So I'm guessing that these 2 dogs that James did get a glimpse of yesterday, I think you guys may have also got a glimpse as well, are called the Magnaletti pack. They're a breakaway, I think, from at least the Magnaletti pack. It's just 2 of them, one of which is collared. And they've been seen far south of us in the southern Sabi Sands. Just fascinating how far these animals move, wild dogs. They cover huge, huge distances. They aren't bound to territories. And it would be nice if we popped into them again. So, to get you at least a better view of them, it would be the 3rd pack that we would have been able to show you. The one pack is called the Sands pack. The other pack is called the Investec pack. And this 3rd little pack of 2 is called the Magnaletti pack. The Magnaletti is a government-owned reserve to the north of us that we are open to. Very nice reserve. We actually used to stay there before we had accommodation here at Djuma. It's been actually quite a lot of backwards and forwards between our accommodation where we've stayed, but we have stayed in the Magnaletti, which is half an hour away. It's quite fun staying across there, quite nice actually. I mean, benefits to everything in life and negatives, I guess. Obviously, an extra hour of travel every day on top of early mornings made us a little bit sleepy, but it was really wonderful to kind of drive half an hour through game reserve to work in the morning and from work in the evening. Also nice just to get away from the workplace, yes, which is something that we can't really escape now. Gabby, you'd like to know what we do during the day while we're not filming. I like to sleep every day if I can, which we usually can, but sometimes we have meetings and obviously we've got to do emails. Today, of course, for example, we've got a meeting, so an hour after breakfast we will, so at about 9:30, an hour after the safari finishes, we'll have a feedback meeting where we'll watch some of our drives and get critiqued by ourselves and other people. I think there's a bateleur or a bird of prey in the tree to our left. I'm going to loop around and see if we can't get another view of it. There's a road that takes us closer by to it. So yeah, we'll be having a feedback meeting today, which can last anywhere between an hour and two, where the presenters get critiqued, the cameraman as well, and the directors also to an extent. So we'll be doing that, and yeah, a couple of emails, a snooze, lunch, and then the afternoon drive. Sometimes there's things to do, get vehicles fixed, get little bits of random stuff done. I'll sometimes edit some photos or edit together a video, read a book, chill out, do some exercise, go for a run. So yeah, there's a few things that we do between the drives. Yeah, other game drives with the staff who can't come out with us on drive. So we will do extra little staff drives, take the other girls out who are often stuck in the control room. Oh, there's a European. There was a European beater, but it flew off. They're very pretty birds, the European beaters, but they are not very obliging, sadly, so we haven't got you many good views of them. Marilyn in Montana, you'd like to know, when working on your bird list, will you include male and female, or will you just you know, do a species check? Usually you'll just do a species. Whether it's male or female, it makes no difference. You can still tick that bird off your list. But if you would like to be very, not strict, meticulous maybe about your list, you could add in male and or female, because in some of the species, a lot of the species, they can look very different. But no, it's not a requirement. Male or female counts for a bird list. Anyone, as long as it's just an individual of a species, you can tick that off your list. You don't need to see both, and either one will count. But like I say, you do have the option to be more meticulous if you'd like. Hello Natasha, David in Ontario. I don't know how that works, if it's Natasha and David, or, but either way, Natasha, David, Natasha and David, one of which is in Ontario, or possibly both of you. I'm not sure if you're a couple or what's going on there. Anyway, the two of you would like to know how many species of birds are in South Africa. I mean Africa. I don't have a clue. We've got 420 that we can see in the Kruger Park, probably about 800 or 900 in the whole of South Africa. And I think there's about 10,000 different species in the whole world. No, there must be more than that. I don't have a clue though. But there's, like I said, probably about 1,000 in South Africa, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 on the whole continent, the dark continent of Africa. Yeah, sorry. I think that would be a good one for the Google machine. That may be able to help you quickly. Where are the animals? I've been hoping that we're going to have some sign of Karula, the queen of Djuma, leopardess. But alas, no surprises, she has been hiding from us. And I'm hoping that she has been hiding and secretive, so for the reason that she has got cubs. There's a possibility that she does still have cubs. We did have one confirmed sighting of a tiny little furball about a month ago, 3 weeks ago now, I'm losing track of time, but quite some time back. Since then, not one confirmed sighting, and there's nothing that leads us to believe that she does still have cubs. However, again, it is a rumor until we can confirm that we have seen it for ourselves, but there is talk that one of the guides saw her with suckle marks, indicating that she still has cubs suckling on her little nipples. That was 5 days ago. Again, I don't believe anything until I see it myself out here. Doesn't matter who the update comes from. An example of which is we got a report the other day. Karula is in the Philemon's Dip drainage line with one of her cubs. All of us got hugely excited, but knew that Tingana and Tundi were in that general area mating, so it would be highly unlikely that Karula would have her cubs anywhere near that danger zone. And it turned out that Karula and her cub were Tingana and Tundi. So a good example as to why you do not want to believe everything you hear out here in the wilderness. The bush makes people crazy after some time, and it can happen to us. We can become crazy, we do become crazy, and that's why we just need to factor in that level of craziness that could occur at any given time from anybody. So guys, I'm afraid to say that the Twitter sphere is in a state of disarray, and we are not receiving your tweets. So that is why we are not answering some of your questions. Apologies for that, but it is Twitter's fault, not ours. I've just seen something. I want to run off and see if it's a frog. It could just be a little cocoon or something white. And sometimes the painted reed frogs show white coloration. So let me go and check quickly. There's a tiny little white something here. It's not a frog, which I was hoping it was. It was a cocoon of some sorts. Anyway, before you laugh at my running style, head off to James, please.
Okay, everybody, we found some bee eaters here. I hope you came live when Louise said you came live. I was doing my best impression of an Indian accent by that when we weren't live there, Genre. Look, it's got a golden back, giving rise to its alternative name of the golden-backed bee-eater. It's a very nasty bee-eater, that, because it is not coming back here. Now, a bee-eater, unsurprisingly, Genre eats. Genre wise. No, it doesn't actually. It eats bees, and is especially adapted for dealing with the stings of bees and other members of the order Hymenoptera. And here's another one. What they do is that they will often catch an insect and then carry it back to the perch and wipe the abdomen of the insect on the perch to get the sting out. He's gone. Never mind, Genre. And what I find really interesting about that is that a bird is clearly, I mean, knows the front end of an insect from the other, and it knows exactly where the sting is. Who teaches it that? Who teaches it to do that? And I think it's one of those astonishing behaviors that has developed over, obviously, many hundreds of thousands of years of evolution. Anyway, that's the bee eater. They don't only eat bees, they do eat lots of other kinds of insects. And they're especially there, it's flying away again, they're especially adapted for that. But there are some birds, drongos perhaps being one, that are able to swallow birds that don't have, or that with their stings, and their stings don't have any kind of deleterious effect on the bird, which is interesting. So it goes all the way down the gullet and into the stomach, and sometimes apparently the stings will get stuck in the alimentary canal, but it doesn't actually have any effect on them at all, which I think is quite interesting. And then I know you were looking at a cuckoo recently with Scott, and they specialize often on eating hairy caterpillars. Now, a hairy caterpillar, for those of you who don't know, will walk around on you, and those hairs leave you with rashes, horrible itching. And a cuckoo has developed the ability to just sort of digest them, and the hairs actually line the stomach of a cuckoo. So if you find a dead cuckoo and you dissect it, you find inside the stomach all of these hairs, and there's no other bird that we know of that's able to do that. It's amazing that everything out here can be something to eat for something else which likes to eat it. Now we're driving vaguely in the direction of, no, we're not vaguely in the direction of Scott, we're driving